From around 3600 BC, the highest status British burials were in so-called long barrows, long rectangular earthen mounds with an entrance fronted with large megaliths at one end. Inside them, a stone-lined tunnel is interspersed with a series of burial compartments to either side. This is West Kennet Long Barrow in central southern England. Constructed over 5,500 years ago, it is one of the oldest surviving roofed buildings in the world. Another smaller tomb of this early period was the portal tomb. These consisted of a close arrangement of standing stones supporting a large capstone to form a burial chamber. The structure was then covered with earth to create a mound. Today, most of these burial mounds have eroded away, leaving only the skeleton of original megaliths to appear something like a giant stone table, known as a dolmen. The first stone circle builders, around 3100 BC, began to create a new kind of burial mound, known as a passage tomb, such as this, the Maeshowe tomb on the Orkney Isles, off the north coast of Scotland. They consisted of a long passageway leading to a large single chamber from which the burial recesses are accessed by small square openings. Within 100 years, they were being built in other parts of the British Isles, such as this one on the Isle of Anglesey in North Wales. Unlike long barrows, they were circular and surrounded by a ditch. Around 2600 BC, a new people arrived in Britain from what is now the Netherlands, known as the Beaker people because of their custom of burying their dead with a single ceramic pot or beaker. They buried their bodies in the ground in simple pits and covered the grave with an earthen mound called a tumulus. Then, around 2000 BC, a second wave of migrants arrived from what is now Belgium. Known as the Wessex culture, they still built tumuli, but beneath them, bodies were interred in cists, simple rectangular boxes dug into the earth and lined with flat stone slabs, with a capstone placed over the top. Yet another wave of newcomers arrived from Germany around 1200 BC. The Urnfield culture, so named because they cremated their dead and buried their ashes in pottery urns in fields or cemeteries without erecting mounds over them. And finally, around 700 BC, there came the Celts, originally from what is now Austria. They too buried bodies in the ground. The higher status burials were once again covered by mounds called cairns, not built from earth, but piles of stone. By this time, the climate in the British Isles had grown colder, so with less resources, few new stone circles were built, but the practice did not end entirely, and existing monuments were repaired and maintained. Astonishingly, stone circles were still being used until the Roman invasion of the 1st century AD, just as they had been for over 3,000 years. But who was still using them? Remarkably, it seems the same people who always had. This is the Bridestones in Staffordshire, central England. Known as a box tomb, it consists of a rectangular structure with capstones originally placed across the top. Partly divided into two sections by a vertical slab, bodies were laid in one side and grave goods in the other. Here we see what remains of an ancient stone circle. Such box tombs are found all over the British Isles. close by or adjacent to stone circles, implying that they were reserved for those who officiated at whatever occurred at these ancient megalithic rings. As these box tombs continued to be built unchanged throughout the entire megalithic era and until the Romans arrived, it would seem that the priestly or shamanic caste buried in them survived to be venerated by repeated migrations of foreign peoples for an astonishing 3,000 years.